Well, transfers never stop, and yet, despite the fact we're in November, there's still more to talk about. Plus, the return of somebody we've been waiting a very, very long time to see. This is the Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time, rain, wind, shine, wedding days, birthdays, no matter what, we're here talking to you all about the latest Arsenal news. Thank you as always for tuning in. It is incredibly appreciated. Good morning to those joining us in the chat box, and thank you all for the very kind messages you're leaving in there too. Pika, who, good morning to you, to Martin, Blackshine, Tom, Amesy, Paul, other Paul, Matt G, Blackshine, Paul, another Paul. We got Rich, double Rich, back to back, Paul, Amesy, Yui, Rancid, Mark, Amira, Nick, John, Stephen, other John, Maximius, Jamil, Nadine, Ken. We've got Loga and Brad. And hold on. Nadine says, don't want to steal Tom's thunder. I've just hit the big 40 this morning. Think how I feel. Tom's still a baby. Well, that does make me feel slightly better, Nadine, so thank you. But I'm sure it's been a fantastic 40 years, and it'll be another 40 plus more as well. Thank you to everybody that's continued to join us throughout this. I was looking back yesterday on kind of what was happening 10 years ago when I entered my 20th year on this strange earth. And it actually turned out that was the year that I started doing podcasts, believe it or not. 10 years ago, rather, when I turned 20, second year of university, was invited over to the Birdcamp Wonderland podcasts for just to be a guest on a pod. And the rest is history. So thank you to Danny, of course, who invited me over on the ABW. Amazing. Amazing that things have gone the way they've gone over the next 10 years and how things have changed. It's that famous saying of it takes 10 years to master something. I certainly don't think I've mastered this chaotic mess that we call YouTube or journalism or content creation, but it's been certainly a privilege 10 years to be here and to do what I do. And thank you as always for tuning in. But without further ado, because you know what people are like, they hate my long, lengthy introductions, we should probably crack on with today's stories. And we start with Patrick Vieira, who has got a brand new job, believe it or not. He is now the manager, head coach of Genoa, believe it or not. Of course, he's been out of work for a little while. He's been doing some events. He's been working with kind of the Premier League and releasing some kits and things like that. For some reason, I don't know why, but I can't share my screen with you. How strange! Of all the days for this to not work, it's not letting me. It's not letting me share my screen. How strange! I wonder if I share this again, it'll work. It might do. No. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? It might work. For some reason, it started refreshing. Maybe it thought it had crashed. I think it crashed. Is it going to share the screen? Yeah, there we go. Lovely stuff. Finally, it shares the screen with you. Okay, we're working. It just clearly wanted to crash on today of all days. But yes, Patrick Vieira joins Genoa as their new head coach. He's been doing some work with the Premier League. He visited Chicago, of course, the Chicago Gooners as well. This is his first coaching job since he left Strasbourg earlier this year. And it's a good job for him, I think, as well. So best of luck to Patrick for the work that is, of course, ahead. Kieran Tierney has been spotted in Arsenal training for the first time in quite a considerable period of time. Arsenal posted to their social feeds an inside look at Arsenal training, and right at the beginning of the video, you can indeed see a fit and firing Kieran Tierney passing the ball into Gabriel Jesus, who has a couple of goes, beating Neto in goal. First shot saved well by Neto. Second shot chipped over the keeper. Then Raheem Sterling with an opportunity to score as well. Gabriel Jesus features heavily in the second video as well that they produced, clearly trying to showcase his fine form on the training ground. We could really do with him doing this on the on the real pitch rather than just in training. But it's encouraging to see, I suppose, that Jesus is there. But back to Kieran Tierney, is he going to get any minutes? Is he going to play? That's the big question. Are we going to see Kieran Tierney on the pitch at all? I guess the next opportunity to see Kieran Tierney maybe get some minutes will be against Crystal Palace in the League Cup quarter-final game at left back. Of course, with now Ben White out for a period of time, we're hoping Calafiori will be back, but Yuri and Timber will move into that right-hand side. Is there going to be a chance to see Kieran Tierney back in the team with Ben White out? Maybe that opens up some avenues, but you've got Zinchenko scoring for Ukraine. You've got Kivior, of course, as well. Calafiori is expected to return very soon. So it's going to be very tricky. Very, very tricky indeed to see that happen. But the headline story in a quiet Thursday morning is that Arda Guler, the Turkish international, very exciting young player, has been linked with a move to Arsenal. This is according to Sport in Spain, who have claimed that he is not happy at Real Madrid. In the year and a half under Ancelotti, he has played just 22 games out of 48. 8 of those 48 games were as a starter, 40 as a substitute. And you can't say the guy isn't talented because, when he comes onto the field and gets opportunities, he usually produces something. But his mood this season has dipped considerably. Only 300 minutes of football. In 10 La Liga games last season, where he played 373 minutes, scored 6 goals, believe it or not. And that was at the age of just 18. So there is clearly a lot of talent in this kid. And there are suggestions, according to that Sport article written by Alejandro Alcazar, is that Arsenal foresee this to be a similar situation to the Martin Ødegaard deal. Arsenal, of course, signing Martin Ødegaard, who was a little bit ostracised at Real Madrid, wasn't really playing too much, and saw him as a player that they could bring in on loan and schmooze into maybe falling in love with the City of London, falling in love with playing with Arsenal. And that is indeed what eventually did happen. And they signed him on a permanent deal. But Arda Guler, a very talented player, attacking midfielder who can play in multiple positions, has played attacking midfield, has played on the right, has played the majority of his time playing, I think, and his main opportunities have been on that right-hand side. So any concerns about him blocking the path of Waneri, I don't think are really there. Of course, it would create more competition, but his versatility to play in those wide areas as well would offer Arsenal, I suppose, more depth in some very big positions. But he is still only 19 years of age. He'll be turning 20 in February of next year, so he'll be 20 in the summer. Man United, Real Madrid paid a lot of money and beat a lot of clubs to his signature. 20 million quid, I think it was, around that figure for a 17-year-old at the time. A lot of money, but once out of the club. Could it be Arsenal that saves him? Could it be a potential position that we see filled by a loan move and then maybe a future deal to sign him permanently? Only that report from Sport in Spain coming out right now. Not much to corroborate the claim so far. If there is any further news on this, you can be sure that we will bring it to you. All right, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, just before we go into part 2 and tackle some of your questions as well, I just want to give another shout out to the Blue Sky side of things, because I did yesterday. And a lot of you have hopped over to give us a follow. Just want to highlight again, if you would like to jump over and try a different platform, because it's just a lot better. I tell you what, we've been on this platform for less than 48 hours, about a day we've been over there. And it's really nice, and like the app's really nice. The process of it's not perfect. It's a brand new app, of course, so it's going to take some time for it to develop and change and grow. But notification system's really good. The home screen's smooth. My following page doesn't throw up some pretty horrible things on the timeline. The discover page is kind of having to gradually catch up and of course bring you things, but it's, instead of me seeing like people getting beaten up or like far right rhetoric, I'm seeing like some calming photos, things about mental health and improving kind of your mood. And if that's not your thing, then don't hop over. But it's just a really nice place to be for a social media app. And as I said, the predominance of my engagement is going to now be over there. My Twitter usage is going to be he's going to be winding down considerably. I'll still be posting articles and shows there for those that are over there, but discussion-wise, Blue Sky is going to be where it is going to be at for the foreseeable future. Right, that's that. That's the admin. So if you would be willing to throw in some questions, now is the time to throw them in. Temi says, Tom, plug in his own account. Of course, that's what I'm here for. It's me. This is me. Of course. If you want to give me one birthday gift, just drop me a follow over on Blue Sky. Eternal says his form has not dipped at all. He is the best attacking midfielder at Madrid, and he is a victim of the old school manager who is not known for developing youth. 1 billion is his his buyout clause. It's not happening. I mean, if he wants to push for a move, if he wants to make a switch, if he wants to be at a club that are going to give him more time on the field, no matter what his buyout clause is, it might be that Real Madrid have to come to an agreement with somebody to see that move happen. So I think that Arda Guler would be an excellent depth addition to Arsenal and probably one of those opportunistic signings that you can make in January. S says, yes, Tom, I've been calling for Arda Guler. I'm glad that we've finally been linked with him. Could be the next Martin Ødegaard. Fergus says, I'm on both platforms and enjoy the new platform, less adverts, etc. I'm not sure if you can post from StreamYard yet. I don't think there is like a stream straight to it. I guess that will be something that comes in the future. Temi says, why would Guler join us when he knows Ødegaard is here? I guess because there's going to be more opportunities to play. He's being completely ignored at the moment, and he can play in multiple positions. And, you know, players like Martinelli haven't been too good. But it's a fair question. Is he going to, how many more minutes will he get at Arsenal compared to Real Madrid? I'm not sure. But if Arsenal can show that they're willing to, you know, give him that pathway, maybe that's something that will see his mindset change. Rich says, Tom, how's the birthday been so far? It's 8 o'clock. I've been up for an hour and only working. So I can't say it's been too enthralling so far. Do you feel the youth draining from your body? For your information, 30s were by far the best decade of my life. Thank you, Rich, for the kind words. And I'll be very honest. There's been some mini crises about turning 30. It's I'm not going to get too deep with you, but it's yeah, I do feel like life is flying too quickly. And I know for listeners of ours that are of an older generation will not appreciate me saying those things as a 30-year-old, but perhaps you will appreciate thinking back to how quickly time has flied in some ways. And it does feel like it is going so fast. But, you know, we're blessed to be here every single day. Mark says, I think Guler is more reminiscent of Mesut Ozil in terms of playing style. What are your thoughts? I mean, he loves to score goals. I mean, you think last season, 6 goals and 10, 0 assists. So is there that kind of link with Ozil? Because creatively, is he on the same kind of level? I think he's more of a goal scorer than maybe a goal creator. Joey says, with all the attacking players Madrid have, I'm wondering why they haven't thrown a 1-0-9 lineup into the fold yet. Thank you, guys. Harrison says, happy birthday, Tom. Wishing you all the very best. Wishing you good health and prosperity. Enjoy your day, son. Thank you, mate. Really appreciate that. Very kind words. And Logan says, seems big at the time, but it's really not. So don't worry about it. That's probably fair. Shall we scroll up? Because I've probably ended up missing some comments as well. Nick says, he's a good tactical alternative, just classic wing back. And we don't always have to invert. That's, of course, about Kieran Tierney. Paul says, I can't help thinking Tierney will be quickly injured again. PW says, what a good news regarding Kieran Tierney, a proper left back who can both attack and defend. Guns and Yellow Ribbons Fergus says Kieran Tierney's an advert ahead of the transfer window as well. And Ty's pointing out, yeah, you might haven't mastered YouTube yet in 10 years, considering I'm already crashing out of streams for 5 seconds while live. Black Magic says, do you know which Nottingham Forest players went on international duty and would therefore be in the same position as most of the Arsenal players regarding travel? Well, if we have a quick look at their last result, then we can have a quick look at the lineup from their previous game. They were beaten 3-1 by Newcastle, you probably will remember. Matt Sells, I think he is Belgian international, is he not? So I think he probably went away with the Belgian national team cells with Courtois and Castells, if Castells is even playing. Alex Moreno, I don't think has been called up by Spain. Milinkovic, maybe. Ola Aina, I think, probably did. Don't know about Dominguez at all. Gibbs White was with England. Chris Wood wasn't. Hudson-Odoi wasn't. Alanga, I think, was with Sweden. So some of their players have been called up, but not loads. Not as many as Arsenal, you would probably assume. Blackshine says more memories make time go quick. 59 in January and 30 scenes not too long ago. And Fergus says, haha, this show is more of a birthday show over Arsenal news. I suppose it's your 30th, so it's allowed. I mean, I'm just reading comments, Fergus. I'm just reading comments, mate. I'm taking as many questions as I can. Comedy says, Tom, is it that the women team doesn't have any news despite their Champions League game today? We usually wrap up the women's news after the games, of course, and obviously the next day after the game we talk about the fixture. So Kameni, that's why you've not seen it. To be fair, when Arsenal are playing next and the men's team, I don't even throw up like the graphic for who Arsenal are playing next. We might get some questions in the chat box about it, and we do specific preview shows for the men's games, but for the women's game, we usually do talk about it the day after if you have watched us for a little while. But they do play tonight, 8 o'clock against Juventus. Of course, they've just come back from smashing Juve in the last fixture. So if you're able to get down to watch the game, it's at the Emirates Stadium, and you want a chance to go and see a game there, I'm sure there are tickets still available, so go and check it out. Luth says, who will play the 6 against Forest? Probably Partey, I imagine, will be at the 6 because we don't know the status of Rice. Mikel Arteta's press conference is tomorrow, so we'll get more information about that then. Aoife says the clubs usually release a bit of an article on who's gone on international duty. So we go on the Nottingham Forest website. Maybe they will have a news on who was on international duty. I know Arsenal do. November international. Oh, Chris Wood did play. So there you go. See, that's just my what's the word? Rob is going to be absolutely hammering me for this. It's my ignorance of the New Zealand national side. Chris Wood scored a hat-trick as New Zealand recorded another impressive victory in their FIFA World Cup qualifying campaign. They beat Samoa 8-0 in Auckland, thanks to those goals. And Wood scored twice in the other game as well, from the looks of things. So Chris Wood is having one hell of an international. He's having one hell of a season, to be fair. But yeah, he netted a hat-trick in their most recent game. Just seeing if there's any other news on the Forest website about any others, if they've released any November internationals. Chris Wood scored twice in a minute as New Zealand scored a 8-1 against Vanuatu. So, I mean, they've not played the most competitive of teams. It's probably not unfair to point out. But yes, there is an article on all the 10 players that have been called up. Murillo received his first call up for the Brazilian national side. Ramon Souza is playing for Paraguay. Morgan Gibbs-White for England as well, of course. Milinkovic, Matt Sells and Nico Williams have been called up for Serbia, Belgium and Wales. Chris Wood for New Zealand. Ola Aina for Nigeria. Zach Abbott for England's under-19s. And Eric da Silva Moreira will hope to get minutes for Germany's under-19s as well. So there you go. 10 players called up in the squad. Lou says, what do you think about Gyökeres scoring 4 goals against Azerbaijan in the Europa Nations League? I mean, continuing what we've expected of him. He's not going to join in January because he's already come out and said publicly that he's going to stay at Sporting until the end of the season. So any hope that that's going to happen, I'm afraid you're going to have to put that to bed. But yeah, continues to be very, very impressive. Mark says, Tom, have you heard anything on the nature of Trossard's injury? I'm afraid not, Mark. No, I've heard nothing. There's been no update on that whatsoever. Fergus says, is it a win against a prerequisite if we are to have any claim? Oh, yeah, we have to win. Well, there's not even a debate about this. Arsenal have to win at the weekend. Derek says, Tom, honestly, my best career in sporting moments came between 30 and 38, which I am now fittest I've been. Age only a number, and I don't let it get in on you. So also Guler would be perfect. Thank you, Derek. Very kind of you indeed. And for the rest of you leaving very kind comments as well. Thank you to you all. Let's go down in the chat a bit more. Amara says, Tom, journalists like John Cross are criticising players withdrawing from England. I didn't realise they were medically trained. Their comments cause issues for players. I personally don't agree with either of John or Oliver Holt, who were on Sky's comments on the England players pulling out. Saka is genuinely injured. Rice is genuinely injured. There are players that are genuinely injured. And I feel like just because of coincidence that a lot of them are, of course, out at the same time, and Harry Kane also coming out and saying that people are taking advantage of it. Players are injured. They are actually injured. And from the Arsenal side of things, to my knowledge, Saka is actually injured. Like, hopefully we get a positive update tomorrow from Arteta, but there's been no word to suggest that it's anything that's not serious yet. But as I say, we'll hear from Arteta tomorrow. Phoebe says, Tom, what do you think the most realistic target for the ladies team is? I think obviously we got to be targeting the cup competitions, because the WSL is most likely too far from, like, I just don't see anyone catching Chelsea. They've done a brilliant job since Emma Hayes has of course left the club, and you know they could even go a season unbeaten. It would not be surprising to see them go unbeaten. So I think that Arsenal probably need to start looking into obviously the Champions League is a big one. The Women's FA Cup, when it starts, it's going to be a big one. Conti Cup wise, when are we in action? Are we in action in the Conti Cup? Do we not join it until maybe later on because of European football? I'm not seeing Arsenal or Chelsea in the list. This is my knowledge is going to be tested. Maybe Phoebe, you'll be better than I will at knowing this, but I'm not seeing us in the Conti Cup match day group stage. Maybe do we join later on because of being in European action? Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal, I don't see in it at all. So I would assume that's the case. I don't see us in the Conti Cup at the moment. So maybe we join slightly later. You'll know better than me, I'm sure. Fergus says, what's your thoughts on the PGML not introducing drugs testing for referees post the Coote situation? I mean, they probably should have done, but it's up to them, and they've not, but they probably should have done. Paul says, Harry Kane missing the March internationals and playing for Bayern Munich immediately after. Why does he think players weren't injured now as well? It's a fair question. Black Magic says, should we take the rumour that Arsenal have identified Isak as our number one striker target seriously? It's not even a rumour. Like, he was a player that Arsenal have been interested in for a while. They were interested in when he was at Real Sociedad. They didn't move. We do know that Arteta is a big fan of Isak. We knew that before those rumours came out from a rather unreliable source. Ollie says, happy birthday, Tom. I do love the prospect of adding Guler, and my only concern is his physicality. Wouldn't this be a Fabio Vieira all over again? We can't just rule out players because they aren't bulky, gym-going beasts. Like, we can't just rule out every single player. Some of the most technically adept and successful players have been more diminutive and slight of frame. Santi Cazorla being, one of my absolute favourites, was never bulky or physical, yet he was one of the most successful midfielders that we've had at the club. The same goes for Cesc Fabregas, same goes for Samir Nasri. They're not particularly like players that had brilliant physical assets to them. So I have to say that no, I don't think so. King says, Tom, what do you make of Carlos Baleba? I think that he would be a Jorginho replacement, a different style, but a very exciting player. I absolutely agree, King. I think Baleba is proving to be this season very, very competent and is replacing that absence of Caicedo very, very successfully after, a year of transition, now really integrating into that Brighton team. Mark says, at one point, we were also said to have been interested in Bruno Guimaraes. Has that ship sailed for us, both for him and for us? I mean, Newcastle letting him go at the moment, it doesn't look like that's a reality. Newcastle's financial situation is always a big question mark because we don't know when that ownership is going to continue. If they are going to continue to invest heavily, are they going to pull out of that investment? There's been a few rumours to suggest that that's the case. So let's wait and see. But there's been no suggestions that Arsenal are going to go back in for Bruno Guimaraes at the moment. Mason says, I'm an Arsenal Red membership, but I can't get the male football matches that you need a premium member to get to. If you have a Red membership, then you should be able to enter the ballots for games. I mean, Fergus is in the chat. Correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I don't go to games through this system. I go through the press. But if you have a Red membership, you should be able to enter the ballot for the Arsenal men's matches. And if you're successful, you get a ticket. If you're not successful, you can go and access the ticket exchange and see if indeed you can get any tickets through the exchange. So you should, as a Red member, be able to access the ballot. If you can't, ring the box office. It may take a while to get through, but give them a ring, and that's the way forwards for that. Jabu says, Tom, do with Guler is really what we need, because I think we need more creative players in January. I'm not saying that he's the answer, Jabu. I'm not saying he's the answer to all of our problems. I'm saying in January, there are very few realistic options that are going to add quality. I do think that of the players that are out there, he's a good option to add to our attacking options in January. It would be a good option to add to what we've got in the team. Ken says, will we see you in the starting lineup for Arsenal this year? You might be a late bloomer. I highly doubt it, mate. Maybe on the Emirates pitch come the end of this year, but certainly not in the squad. Fergus says, Red members can enter the ballot and ticket exchange if unsuccessful. It's all about perseverance. Yes, so you should be able to enter it. If you're having problems with it, please do. Please do. Ring the box office, ring the club, and get customer support if you're struggling with that. Paul says, Red members get an email notification when the ballot is open. Are the emails going to junk mail? Maybe. So make sure you've checked your junk mail for any previous emails and move those across to your main inbox so that future ones come through, or you can star them, or make sure you've highlighted them in your email services so that you are always notified when those come through. Jamie says, what message does signing Guler send to Waneri? Not loads. Waneri plays as an attacking midfielder, and Guler can play in wide areas. So you've added depth to our positions. Like, you can't just not sign players who play in other positions just because Waneri plays attacking midfield. Guler can play with Waneri. It's not a case of one or the other. It also doesn't mean we can't sign players just going forwards. We can't sign players. We have to be able to give these players pathways, yes, but it doesn't stop you from adding talent. That's really, really important to point out. Sleeping Fat Boy says, Endrick from Real Madrid, who is the target? I mean, I doubt he is going to be someone that we look to. PW says, I've been a big admirer for Morgan Gibbs-White. Do you think he would be a good addition? He has done some impressive things at Nottingham Forest. Getting called up to the England national team. He's only 24 years of age. Last season, he had a really decent haul, was a big part of their survival push. He's only got one goal this season, but he has had some injury issues. But 5 goals and 10 assists last season in 37 games for a struggling Forest team at that point. He did impress. I think he'll be on the radar of a few top clubs, will Morgan Gibbs-White. I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. Snake Eye says, Tom, what's your advice for those who live in the USA and want to come and watch games and are having trouble buying tickets for games? It's really difficult for anyone, not just in the US, but those that are abroad trying to get to games, because the ballot makes it really difficult for you to be able to plan your trip with a game, because you have to get lucky in the ballot. My advice is, if you're not part of your supporter group, you absolutely should be. So Arsenal America, you should be a part of that. They get allocation of tickets for games, different supporter groups around the world. So make sure you liaise with your local nation supporter group, contact them, and put yourself in the fold for potential tickets through their own ballot systems. That would be my advice. But if you're willing to spend more money, then enter the ballot, get lucky, and then book your trip. Otherwise, you're going to be booking a trip with no guarantee of a ticket. I'm never going to advise any of you to buy tickets through second parties or third parties. It's just ridiculous. You'll get scammed. And scamming's a big thing these days, as people found out on social media yesterday. Please make sure that you are very, very careful what goes on and in buying your tickets. I had a couple of people message me saying, but I'm always happy to answer people's queries on this. If you do send me a message about what I think about something, someone sent me a message. I won't reveal their name for obvious reasons, but someone sent me a message saying that someone had offered them tickets for the Newcastle game, and I was like, "All right, what's St James's Park?" And they were like, "No, the game at the Emirates." I'm like, "Those tickets aren't out for ages. The Newcastle game is the penultimate match of the season. We're not going to get any information about those tickets for a long time to come." And they nearly spent like £300 on those Newcastle tickets, even though they weren't out. And, that's where people need to be careful. People aren't stupid. People are just, uneducated on the ticket process system. And, it's mistakes happen. You're not going to be chastised for it. So just be ultra careful. Just be really, really careful. I know the desperation and the desire to go and watch games is massive, and people are willing to pay silly money to get tickets. And sometimes that they do turn out to be real, but it's not worth the risk. Too many people lose too much money in getting tickets through third parties that don't turn out to be real. So do be very much aware of that. Guner says, Tom, I've supported Arsenal for 60 years and I've been priced out because of the tickets and the travel, but I still love my club and would go. It would cost me over £150. It is very expensive these days. It is very, very expensive to go to games. Not just the ticket, but like the travel these days in the UK is incredibly expensive. Abroad travel, flights everything's really expensive. And obviously during a cost of living crisis I've talked about, especially in the UK over the last 8 years, has been horrendous the way things have gone. There's a multitude of factors, both governmental and non-governmental, like with the pandemic. But, I absolutely empathise with people's struggles to be able to not go to games and the desperation to watch them. But don't put yourself into a position where you're going to end up losing money to ticket touts and scammers. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. That is going to bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, it is incredibly appreciated. Thank you as always for tuning in and listening and for joining us across all of these over the past however many years we've been doing this. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you and join you. And I will continue to do this. I don't see an end to this right now. I don't see this stopping, and because I enjoy it and I enjoy doing this with you every morning. So thank you for your kind support. Thank you for your kind words as well. It means an absolute a lot. It just means a lot. So thank you. I can't wait to see so many of you at our live event next year. I'm really excited for it. I'm hopefully going to have a surprise or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You never know for that as well. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a good event. Our third live event, I think, as well. Just showcases the brilliance of this community. So thank you. And I will now go and enjoy my 30th. I'm not really enjoying it properly until Saturday after the game. There may not be a show on Sunday. I think you can probably guess why there might not be a show on Sunday, but there will be a show tomorrow. So don't you worry. There'll be a show tomorrow morning and then a show on Saturday morning ahead of the game against Nottingham Forest. There could even be a preview show tomorrow as well. So watch out for that if we can fit it into our schedule. We hope that we can. Right. Subscribe, like, all the usual YouTubey stuff. I'll see you tomorrow. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.